get wet and squishy with us, and let's get it on with the Dirty Grass Players.
Bienvenido a Sleepy Creek. For 3 days, Denny Moore and his pals present some of the best bluegrass and jam band in America. I've been told that Sleepy Creek is really special, but I don't know where to start because I don't know a thing about bluegrass. Like, there are mandolins and banjos, but no drums. And how can so many people from so many different backgrounds love this music with all of their hearts? Who plays bluegrass, why they play bluegrass, and how the hell does it fit into jam band? So come with me, my cousin, my best friend, as we explore Sleepy Creek Presents Spring Dig. First things first, when a group of bluegrass musicians circle up to play, it's called pickin'. Not jammin', not shredding, just pickin'. I might have made that mistake a couple of times when I went down to Sleepy Creek Presents Spring Dig back in May. Luckily, the folks down in Sleepy Creek were really cool, man. There was one teensy problem getting in the way of this project. I hadn't really listened to bluegrass before. It's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't know what the hell to do with it. Hell, I couldn't appreciate jazz until I took a course in college. And now I can't imagine my world without it. I needed that type of lesson with bluegrass stat. Otherwise, I risk never understanding what's going on in Sleepy Creek. I found my teachers in 2 bands that were playing at Sleepy Creek, the Dirty Grass Players and the Sweet Maple Singers. So friends, what do we need to know about bluegrass?
Bass and the mandolin kind of create the kick and the snare of a drum kit. So there's a reason that bluegrass doesn't have drum set. It's because we have, you know, the chop, the kick, and then we have the snare drum with strings that plays like the hi-hat kind of thing.
The offbeat chop of the mandolin is actually what inspired the snare drum in rock and roll.
Wow.
That's why you hear the backbeat, what they call the backbeat, or the offbeat of the snare drum. There's a lot of, when rock and roll was first being considered as a style of music, bluegrass was, and even, you know, honky tonk were at their peak.
Yeah.
And because of the drive you got from the bass holding down the downbeat, the 1 and the 3 in a measure, and the mandolin supplying the offbeat, the 2 and 4 beats of the measure, that syncopated rhythm that drove the music forward is what inspired rock and roll to decide to incorporate the drums to produce that full rhythmic aspect.
There's stories of Chuck Berry. You know, he was too young to go into the bar room to listen to Bill Monroe play, but he would stand outside. And there's a Bill Monroe song where Bill Monroe does this like do 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 do, and everybody knows Chuck Berry from going dun 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 dun.
The kickoff of Johnny B. Good is a Bill Monroe lick.
Yes, yes, it's very linked and
Roll Over Beethoven. Both of those start with Bill Monroe licks. They're just played on an electric guitar instead of a mandolin. Well, Chuck admitted it. He got the ideas from growing up listening to Bill Monroe's records. And hearing him, you know, standing outside the bar room listening to music.
Are there any styles of music that you hear and you're like, oh, I have to steal that?
Steal that?
Everything.
Oh yeah,
everything.
Yeah, if it's good, you take it.
Like what?
Yeah.
If it works.
Like,
I mean,
like for you personally?
For me personally, I really like the fiddle styles of Benny Martin and Paul Warren.
Okay.
2 of the greats of bluegrass fiddling. And there's a few times where I'll admit, you know, some of the licks I'll throw in are what I've heard growing up listening to their recordings. And sometimes you hear them, you hear even a full break where they take a turn playing the lead melody in a song in between verses or in between other instrument breaks. And sometimes you hear something and it really catches your attention and you pick it up. Even if you don't get it note for note, it inspires at least a similar rendition that you steal in a sense.
You guys have played together, so do you see people that you haven't seen in a while and you see their growth year to year?
Oh yeah, totally. It's like every time we come and play here, we kind of get to see all of our peers play, and at the same time we get to, like, you know, see them, everybody just kind of gradually as a group come up, and it's pretty cool.
It's worth mentioning that our banjo player is in here right now because he's nerding out with 2 other banjo players. Nobody wants to be there because it's cacophony of banjos. They're having a great time and trading licks. So.
All the banjos.
I absolutely want to delve into, like, why are banjos pornographic again?
I wouldn't say they're pornographic, they're repugnant.
Here's the thing. Playing music is like making love. What they are doing right now is they're jacking off.
Your neck feels so comfortable, man.
They're
Oh my
masturbating.
God.
It's like a game of ookie cookie, but with
Yeah,
sound.
you wouldn't want to watch what they're doing unless you're into banjo. You know what I mean? Like, it's niche. It's niche porn.
This got weird.
Getting over the top.
Yeah, people have been ripping on banjos long before I was born, and people will be ripping on banjos long after I'm dead. So.
People have been ripping on banjos, I think, since the invention of the banjo.
The banjo. Way back in Africa, the first gourd banjo, that guy's neighbor must have
The
hated it.
first banjo was invented, and immediately after, his neighbor made up the first banjo joke. It was like that, like next to me.
It goes out to Mr. John Starling.
Hey James, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Stand By Me or Anna Karenina?
My marriage isn't going so great, so
I think of TRAINSPOTTINg, because right now,
You gotta poop?
no.
no! We're dealing with porta potties. Why would you conjure up that image now?
One of the ways that music serves as a vessel to bring together those 2 people from the different backgrounds of urban and rural areas is the fact that a lot of folk and bluegrass and a lot of music of that nature is based around the common themes of love, loss, heartache, joy, the basic human emotions that
Hard
people
work, too.
tend
A lot
to
of work.
build their lives around. Yeah, hard work.
And everybody gets down, rain or shine.
That's
Every
Sleepy Creek.
year.
Is storytelling something that you are concerned with when you perform, when you compose?
Any good song should tell a story in some frame. You know, it may be very vague, it may be very direct, but any good song, it will convey some kind of story.
I like in a lot of ways too. The songs build stories. People will come to you and they'll share these experiences. And I went to this festival when I was 6 with my dad and my parents, or my mom, and my family went to this bluegrass festival, and this song always stirs this memory. And sometimes that's where, looping back to when you asked what creates the sense of community at Sleepy Creek, a lot of that's just the shared stories, or the collective stories that the songs themselves create, in addition to the story that created the song.
Venture to say 90 to 100% of bluegrass bands cover lots of songs, and it's almost like digging something out of, dusting it off, and like being like, I found this. You know what I mean? It's part of the bluegrass culture is bringing something back and putting your own little spin on it, but still kind of preserve. You know what I mean? It's not about changing it so drastically. It's not the same song anymore. It's like, this is an old tune that
preserving it.
What's your like
Bill Monroe
Carter
played this
family
song,
something.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like
Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something.
I've heard it referred to as a book, and it's like there's a big book of bluegrass, and like it's sort of just like having pages slowly added to it. We play some classic rock songs that aren't bluegrass, but we try to like frame it in, a more bluegrass idiom. And maybe someday somebody else will play, that tune also in a bluegrass kind of thing. And so it's just adding pages. And that's, there's a lot of bluegrass songs that are like old, pop tunes from like the 40s and 50s, or country tunes, or honky-tonk songs that now people are just like, oh, that's bluegrass. Whereas it really came from somewhere else.
I feel like a lot of it, like you were saying earlier, it's passing down the history. Like one of my biggest influences from growing up is Peter, Paul, and Mary, and they would take very old songs and they would change them and make the arrangement more modern so that people would enjoy listening to the ballad and then hearing that history.
Yeah, like kind of how you guys put the sea shanty.
As she sailed upon the lowland, lowland, lowland.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
The Golden Vanity dates back to 1492.
And it doesn't sound anything like we play it.
Sailed upon the lowland sea.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Listen to This. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, say hi in the comments. Next week, we continue our 3-part series in Sleepy Creek Presents Spring Dig. We're talking to Joe Keys, an incredibly enigmatic performer. He's going to be talking to us about how funk and jam band relate to bluegrass. It's going to be pretty cool.
I've been throwing little stones. I don't believe you've even heard me yet. Today you crossed your heart, said you'd meet me in the dark. Called you on the phone, you pretended you weren't home. Hey baby, what do you say? Won't you come on outside tonight? The moon is finally shining bright as day. Hey, what do you say? Can't you hear the music on the wind and see our shadows on the ground? Won't you come on down? We're gonna do a little fiddle